Watch this floor and ceiling retirement plan. This is pretty sweet. So I'm modeling some numbers here. And I was going to use this in my book. I'm not going to now. But anyway, we're using 1937 in 2024. And the reason we're starting in 1937 is to avoid the Great Depression, because we're never going to go back into another Great Depression with the Fed as they are now. Now, again, oh, you're cherry picking. I completely get it. I'll show you when we actually add the Great Depression in there. But anyway, so what you'll see here is, so what we're doing is we're saying, okay, at the end of the day, we're taking 8% a year off our portfolio. We're putting 3 years in T-bills, all right? So that's going to be 240,000 in T-bills, 760,000 in the S&P 500, starting in 1937. A little bit cherry picking, I get you, but just hang in there. And what we're doing is we're going to take 8% of the previous year's portfolio balance, all right? We're going to spend that money, and whatever the portfolio goes, we're going to spend 8% of that, with a floor of $64,000. We'll never spend below $64,000, all right? Now, in this case, I'm not putting a ceiling on there. I'm just saying just spend, 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 spend. And we're going to compare floor and ceiling, just 8% typical, all right? 8%, we're just taking 8% of the previous without any floor or ceiling. Then we can see right here, 4%, and again, if it's an 8%, you're never going to run out of money. That's just a fact, because you can't. 8%, I've got 8% of $10,000, that's $800. 8% of $1,000, that's $80. 8% of $10 is 80 cents. So you'll never run out of money. All right, but anyway, so you can see right here, 4% rule, worst case. So the 4%, as you can see, and this is just using the 4% rule, if it runs out of money in year 19. Let's see, floor and ceiling, worst case, ran out of money in year 18. Interesting. Because at some point we're saying we have a floor on there. We can't spend below that. We have to spend 64,000 or more. At some point, you still run out of money, and you can see it's not very often. 8% worst case is this is pretty bad, and we're getting down. This is the drawback about the 8% scenario. We're just like, oof, we don't run out of money, but we are way low down here. You see what I'm saying? We're way low. Like, yikes, that's not good, because we're spending down assets that are falling. But you'll notice we never run out of money. Of course, we're just not spending very much. All right, so here's a typical 4% rule. Isn't that interesting? So the 4% typically after 25 years, from 1937 to 2024, and using 25-year increments, our typical amount is about in year 25 is about $82,000 or so. That's probably 90,000. I think it's actually, does it say in here? The 4%, about $80,000, 78,900. Yep, 78,900. So the typical 4% rule, we're taking 40,000, 41,000, 43,000, 45,000, whatnot. By the last year, as long as it didn't run out of money, we're taking about $80,000 out typically. All right, so that makes sense. That's what we're showing there. Now, your 8% variable strategy is the blue, and look at that. I mean, that's your typical. All right, now this is the worst case scenario, the red dots. That's the worst case scenario for the 8% variable. Now, that's bad, but that's good. All right, and then we got our floor and ceiling. All right, the typicals, look at that. Pretty doggone close to 8%. A little bit less here, but pretty doggone close. And of course, we did run out of money sometimes. Very interesting. So watch this. 8% variable, never ran out of money, but 19.8% it was below 64,000. Well below 64,000 in some regard. Well below. All right. Worst case scenario is 18,400. So you started with $80,000 and you're down to 18,400. Yeah, that's pretty huge. The median that you took out was $103,000. Isn't that crazy? That's pretty good. Floor and ceiling with a $64,000 minimum, 93.8% success rate. Zero periods below 64, because that's our floor. The median was $89,000, and we ran out of money 6.2% of the time. 4% had a 96.2% success rate. Now, we're only doing this for 25 years, mind you, 25 years. Median was 78,900. The median amount was 78,900. In fact, it's very interesting because the last year scenario on average was about 82, it was probably about 88,000 or so, but the median was 79,000. So the median for the floor and ceiling was 89,000. The median for the 4% rule was 79,000. The median for the 8% variable was 103,000. Pretty interesting. So then I said, hey, I told Grok, or not Grok, who's this? This is Claude. I said, Claude, show me some. Show me what you got. And I said, Grok, now we're going to add the 1926 time frames. And here you can see the floor and the ceiling. I think I got it up here. Hold on a second, a little bit easier to see. All right, so what you'll see here is in the Great Depression, we ran out of money 6 times. And then in the latter part of the 1999, or I guess it'd be 1996, 1997, 1998, we ran out of money 3 times as well. So low interest rates, low interest rates. But that's it. And that's with the floor and ceiling. Look at that, man. And there is no ceiling here, none whatsoever. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? So you add the Great Depression. Yeah, it hurt, but we still had a success rate of 88% of the time. Isn't that nuts? Not only that, look how much money right here. Final balance. Look at all that money we're leaving behind. We start with $1 million. I mean, look at that. It's crazy. How much we withdrawn, total amount withdrawn. I mean, it's just nuts, dude. So the floor and ceiling works like a charm. Right? Had worked like a charm. And again, we weren't doing any rebalancing. We're basically doing the barbell. We put 240,000 in T-bills, 760,000 in the S&P 500. We're saying if the markets are down, S&P 500, we're taking from the T-bills. Markets are up, we're taking it from the S&P 500. This is a lot what I'm working on my book that's I'm formatting right now to be done. Right? I just think that's fantastic. And I said to Claude, I said, Claude, let's just put a ceiling on here of $110,000. Let's see what it works here. And Claude said, we can put a ceiling on there, but it doesn't change our success rate. Our success rate remains at 88%. It's just we happen to leave, average wealth that we're leaving behind is 48% more. Yeah, that doesn't do anything. I don't want to leave. I mean, look, if you want to leave a bunch of money, that's fine. But having a ceiling on there didn't really help you that much. The floor actually was pretty good. And again, if you don't want the floor, well, you're going to have to contend with, I'll show you in here, you're going to have to contend with some serious down market potential here. Right here. Right. This is no floor and ceiling. Like if we do the 70, basically the 3-year cash barbell, 22% of the time you're spending below $50,000. 22% of the time. All right. Now with no ceiling, 46% of the time you're spending over 120, which is pretty sweet. But so basically 1 in 5 times your amount you're withdrawing was below 50,000. Remember we started with 80. Yeah, a lot of people aren't going to be jiving with that so much. Then we go from below 64,000, it's 28% of the time. So that might be a little bit bridge too far. Wellington was 29% of the time. S&P 500 was a third. So if you just did the S&P 500, a third of the time you're spending below 64,000. That might be a bridge too far, to be perfectly honest with you. So I like the floor. I like the floor of a 64,000 here because remember the average, well, the median that you're taking out with the 4% rule was right here, right there, $78,000. So if we're using a $64,000 floor, and that's still pretty doggone close to the 4% rule, the median, and we're taking a whole lot more on top of that, and our probability of success is still in the low single digits. I mean, that's pretty good. Big fan. Like that strategy. All right, love your thoughts. Smash that like button. We'll see you.